Me.
Dude, because we're annoying, bro. All right, now tell me, why are you pro-choice?
I said one sentence.
Okay,
Okay,
why are you pro-choice?
because I think women should have, like, the government should not use women as a political playground. People should have access to, like, the resources they need and whatnot.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
What do you
I don't even have
define
to
as
guess. I'm
political playground?
blue. Sorry. What?
When you say political playground, what does that actually mean, or is that like a political slogan?
I mean, by political playground is like, it's like they're revoking women from having their, whoa, this is not good wording. It's like mm, they're prancing around on women's bodies, not literally,
Could I
but
say that men are being used as a political playground when they're forced to pay child support?
no,
Okay, so why is that not analogous?
because I said woman's body is not
Okay,
just
so
women.
I could say men's wallets are being used as political playgrounds.
Men's balls?
No, wallets.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't know.
Okay,
I love abortion.
you see how it's kind of like absurd to just call things political playgrounds because the government has some control over it?
No, that's not absurd.
Okay,
I
well,
agreed with you.
all right. Okay, well, then we can agree to that. Um, so let me ask you, do you think it is wrong for the government to enforce murder laws?
No, murder is bad
Why is murder bad? I agree it's bad, but I want to know why you think it's bad.
because you should not harm or kill other people.
Okay, so you agree that murder is wrong because it takes away a life, correct?
Yeah,
Okay, when do you believe that life begins?
when you're conscious,
Okay, so before consciousness, there's no person there, there's no life per se?
yeah, it's just a body.
Okay. Um, so let's assume, like, I'm pretty sure you've probably heard this argument before, but a coma patient, where do you stand on that?
Well, they've already experienced consciousness in a coma. You're bound to wake up at some point. So, like, I mean, like,
Well, that's not
they're
necessarily true that they're bound to wake up at some point.
Can I also say something to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you said that life begins at consciousness, correct?
yes.
So can you tell me, do you have any memory from when you were like 2 years old?
Yeah.
I
Um,
think what he's trying to say is that he believes that values starts from consciousness, not necessarily biological life, because
okay.
biological life
Okay.
is conception, right? But
Yes.
I'll play
Okay.
with his
I'll butt
argument
out
when
here. I'll butt out.
yeah I'll play with it on the idea that's consciousness. Okay, so coma patients, we believe that they have some sort of value because they will gain consciousness, and the fact that they previously had consciousness. Um, well, I mean, first we're assuming that we will know if they will gain consciousness, but we can work with that. Um, so let me just modify this hypothetical real quick. Let's say we have a baby born with anencephalia. Do you know what that is?
No.
So it's a condition where the part of the brain required for conscious experience does not develop, right? Um, but other than that, they can breathe, they can digest food, they can kind of grow like everyone else. They just can't deploy consciousness. Would you see them as anything morally considerable?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well
That's someone's child.
they never previously had consciousness, right? And we don't know if they will gain consciousness, right? Why are they not moral, or why are they morally considered? But a fetus isn't.
I mean, they're already born. I mean, they've already experienced life. So,
Yeah, but you said life
and
starts at consciousness.
they've already experienced life.
No,
They're
they
already
didn't.
born and growing.
A baby
When you
born with
have abortions, okay.
a baby born with anencephalia cannot become conscious. They're born in like a persistent vegetative state. They're basically born in a permanent coma.
So they're vegetables.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh. Well, I mean, do you want me to, like, say I would kill the baby?
Well, I just want to know where you stand on this, right? Because I want to get to some other hypotheticals with you just to kind of stress test this view of consciousness of yours.
Well, the baby shouldn't be killed. They should put in like special education programs. But
Special
as
ed,
for
dude.
what I was
They're born in a permanent coma. What education are they receiving?
special education isn't just education, it's specific care for the child. But
Okay.
um the child the child is already born, and abortions occur within like 13 to 20 weeks. I wouldn't want anything that's growing out in the real world to get murdered or anything.
Real world, are you telling me like the womb's like a fake world? Is that like Alice in Wonderland in there?
If that's what you want me to say, then yeah.
Well, you called the outside world the real world. I don't know what the fake world would be, but anyways.
I feel like you know what it is, though.
Well, I mean, calling it the real world, I mean, that's just outside a womb. That's just a different location. I don't know why you would attribute any sort of moral arbiter to that. But anyways,
It's a phrase. It's a common phrase. It's
uh,
English.
it's not
It's
that common.
English.
I
Come
haven't heard of
on.
it. But anyways,
You just heard it from me, though,
all right.
so I
Okay,
don't
all right.
know. Right.
Well, there we go. Anyways,
Right.
so you would say child born with anencephalia, morally considerable, but a fetus is not. What's the symmetry breaker?
Symmetry. One is born, one is not. One is
Okay,
has been through.
so
Okay,
birth.
go ahead.
So it's not consciousness that's your moral arbiter. It's birth. Okay, so I don't even know why you brought up consciousness. That was a red herring.
Because you asked, what the
I
hell?
asked you when life
Boy, what
begins.
the
I asked you
hell?
when life
Boy,
begins.
what the
I asked you when
hell?
I asked you when life
Boy, what
begins.
the
You said
hell?
consciousness, right? A
What
baby
the
who
hell?
it doesn't, gain consciousness is still morally considered in your eyes because you said it's born. So consciousness is not when you believe life begins. You believe it's birth. That was a red herring. Anyways, if birth is the moment that you believe life begins, because it can't be
Oh,
consciousness anymore, then it would follow that a mother would be able to have an abortion 5 minutes before delivery. Do you hold to that view?
no. I
Why?
said abortions happen 13 to 20 weeks. If it's premature, then like that's a
Okay.
baby.
Yeah. So no, like why? Like if it's only morally considered at birth now, then why is it that a mother can't have one 5 minutes before?
Be- That's a baby. Abortions occur 13 to 20 weeks
That's
before.
that's when the common amounts happen, right? But why couldn't she just like grab a clothes hanger and decide to go to town 5 minutes before? Under your worldview, that would be morally permissible.
Boy, no, that's not mine.
That
Anyways,
dude, you said
but
consciousness. You said it wasn't consciousness. You said it was birth. Now I gave you a scenario where it's 5 minutes before birth, and you say no, that's wrong. But you can't give me a reason why.
she gonna call me baby boo.
Seems like you're pretty inconsistent with your worldview, right?
Seems like you're pretty inconsistent with my
I'm
butt.
No, I'm going through the logical conclusions of your worldview, and you're not liking the consequences of them, so therefore you're falling back on something that is a little more defendable. And then when I dismantle that, you fall back even further, right? The only consistent worldview would be that life begins at conception, that we ought to protect it from the moment of conception.
But that's just not true.
Why is that not true? What's not true about it?
Because life doesn't begin in someone's balls. They when they start
I never
existing,
said it was that. When All right, let me
right?
ask you, when does the organism form?
The organism forms when it reaches the egg, and then the egg does that, and then it does that, and then it
So,
does that
so,
stuff.
so what you're doing is you're giving a really long explanation for what is conception, right? So you're
So
saying
it's two
conception.
sentences.
Well, you could have made it one word by saying conception. So 2 sentences is way longer than it needed to be. Um, so,
Longer than my butt.
yeah, well, conception is what you meant to say. When does the new unique DNA form?
I don't know.
Conception as well, right? What telos does an individual sperm have that an embryo does not?
Bro, I don't know.
Yeah, so an individual gamete does not have the telos or potency to develop into a mature member of its species, unlike an embryo, a fetus, a fertilized egg, whatever you want to call it, right? So, like, you're right, it doesn't start down there. It starts at conception.
Okay.
Therefore,
Honestly, I wouldn't care if the baby was alive. Just kill it. Like, I mean, I don't I don't see what your point is. I
wow.
want the mother
Okay.
to have a say in what she does with her body. Like, just kill it. Like,
So should she be allowed to kill it if like
Okay, guys,
it was outside and like I don't know, the child was like being breastfed and you're like, well, it's using her body, just kill it.
no.
Well, I mean, under your worldview, that would be the natural consequence. Seems like you're pretty inconsistent, man.
No, you're just
okay,
distorting it.
guys, I'm gonna have to cut it there
Yeah,
just because there's other people waiting.
yeah. I thank you
But do
for
you
that.
guys
I
have any?
appreciate that.
Yeah, do you guys have any other
Yeah, thank you.
final words?
Oh no, I don't really have any final statements, but I appreciate you letting me debate. I appreciate the other guy having this debate
Of
with me. I do
course.
encourage him though to maybe read in some of the literature or some books around it. But anyways, I appreciate that. Thank you. You can put me down now.
Of course. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, well, Adam.
Yeah. So wait, you are Muslim?
Yep.
Okay. Why are you Muslim?
I just believe it to be a true religion.
Okay. Okay. So you believe Muhammad received divine revelation?
Yep.
Okay. How do you know that?
Yeah, so it says it in the Quran.
Okay,
And I
but
take the Quran as fact.
okay. So for the okay, so I asked you, how do you know Muhammad received divine revelation? Right? You say the Quran.
Uh-huh.
Who Muhammad, I know he didn't write the Quran, but he's the one who basically spoke the words for it to be transcribed. So I asked you, how do you know Muhammad received divine revelation? You say because Muhammad said so.
No. I say because the Quran said so. Like you
And
said.
and the
Wait, hold on.
Quran. Okay.
Hold on. Like you said, Muhammad talked about the Quran to the people. So it wasn't Muhammad telling them that I had divine revelation. It was him reciting the Quran, and the Quran said that he had divine revelation. That wasn't his words, that was the Quran's words. He did independently himself say that he got revelation, and the way I can prove that he did say that is also through the Quran.
Yeah, but you see, the Quran was, basically was given to Muhammad by, I believe, the Archangel Gabriel, right?
Yes, Jibril.
Okay, so, I mean, that would be the divine revelation claim, right? So, Gabriel gave the Quran to Muhammad. Muhammad spoke of the Quran and was written down by those around him, right? So we don't actually have any way to verify Muhammad's claim that he received revelation from Gabriel. We're just taking his word for it and writing it down in the Quran, and you're taking the Quran as fact. So that seems like a self-certifying claim, no?
Wait, hold on. Are you Christian?
I am, yes.
So then, isn't that the exact same thing with
It's
the
not the
Bible?
exact same thing because Jesus did
Wait,
not
hold
claim.
on.
Jesus did not say, "Here, I am a God, and the only way you'll know of this is by the words I speak." Right? He was prophesied before then. Muhammad was not prophesied before then.
Yes, he was.
Where?
Yes, he was through multiple prophets. There is in Hadith.
Okay, the hadiths came after the Quran. Can you give me things before the Quran, before Muhammad's existence, that prophesize Muhammad's existence?
Well, I can't give you undeniable facts because the way I would do that is through the Injil and the Torah, but it's currently corrupted, so I can't give you
Okay, so
evidence, which
so
is
so then you can't tell
Hadith.
me that Muhammad was prophesied. You have no evidence for the self-certifying claim. All I'm
No, I
hearing,
do.
well, no, that wasn't evidence. What you said is that I believe in Muhammad because Muhammad says he's a prophet.
No, I don't. Again, he was reciting Quran, and the Quran said he was a prophet.
Okay, yeah, and he didn't technically write the Quran, but he's what gave the word to Quran or to the people, right? Without
Yeah, that
Muhammad,
just
we would have
means.
had
Wait,
no
hold
idea
on.
of what the
That's
Quran
the
says.
word of God. Wait, that's the word of God. He's reciting the words of God, not the words of Muhammad.
Okay, yes.
So again, that's not him.
Yeah, but you see, how do we know these are the actual words of God? How do we know he actually received revelation? That's the point.
Yeah, again, you came up here and asked me why I do. I gave you the reason of the Quran.
Yeah, but
I can prove
but
Muhammad
that's self-certifying, right? Because we have to
Yeah, you
trust.
never asked me to show you proof.
Dude,
You
I
just asked
did.
what
I did. Oh, I asked
you
you.
showed me what I think.
Okay.
Wallahi, the first thing you told me you said, why do you think that he had revelations? And I answered that question. You
No, I
never,
asked how
until
do
now,
I
told
asked
me
how do I
that
know
he proved.
why no, I asked why should I believe that he received revelation?
You didn't say that.
Oh
Till
my
now, you
goodness.
did not say that.
Okay, well then do you
You
want
asked
to
me,
do you want to settle it? Do you want to tell me why I should believe that he received revelation?
what?
Do you want to tell me why he received revelation or why I should believe that?
Yeah, sure. Why he got revelation? Yeah, so the Torah and the Injil were currently corrupted at those times. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty, He sent the last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the last scripture to correct the people of today and the days or the times of the Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And to answer your second question, why you should believe it, is so basically I could, for example, I could do it in a way which will take very long and very tedious. I'm gonna just like explain it. Okay, so the Quran, it tells you trust in the prophet's words because he never lies. That's one of the things. He's sinless, and one of the things are lying. So if the Hadith, which is the words of God, the two main books, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim,
Yeah.
if I can prove that through the Quran, but I have to first prove the Quran. So it's gonna take long. First, I would have to prove Quran, then I would have to prove Hadith, then I would have to give you the Hadith.
Yeah.
It would take very long.
I mean, my whole thing is, just to make it easy, let's say Muhammad, even though he didn't write the Quran, let's just, for argument's sake, say he did, right? And let's say he's just writing down what he got from Gabriel. Why are we ought to believe or trust anything he says about his revelation in the Quran?
Wait, he was illiterate. He couldn't write.
Yeah, no, I said for argument's sake. I said
Oh,
for
okay.
argument's sake, I know he
Oh.
couldn't write, so he spoke and someone transcribed for him, right? I mean, that's really an unimportant detail. We can just say he wrote the Quran, right? To make it
And the
simple.
literate man wrote. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, so for argument's sake, let's pretend he wrote it, right? And he wrote down what he received from God or Gabriel or whatever. Why are we to believe anything that is written down in there? He says, I received revelation. Why am I to believe that he actually received revelation?
Yeah, sure. So there's multiple reasons, right? So number one, the main reason is, for example, the Quran has just absolutely no contradictions in
It's
it.
not true. It's not
I
true.
know. In your head, you're like, yeah, this guy's lying. I have so many in my head. I can think of 5. I promise you, every single one is taken out of context. Because I used to be like you. I used to be like, oh, I found a contradiction in Torah. Oh, I found a contradiction in the Bible.
Were you a
But
Christian?
no, I wasn't Christian. Again, I said,
Okay.
did I say Quran? I said Bible and
Okay.
Torah.
All right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyways,
No. There's plenty of
taking out
contradictions.
What?
No, there's plenty of contradictions with the Quran. There's
Give me
zero with
one.
the Bible. You want
Give me
me?
one.
I'll pull one up
Give me
for
one.
you. Give me a moment.
Go ahead.
Give me a moment.
I have my own Quran. I could go get it. You could just tell me the verses.
Yeah. So while I'm looking this up, give me your other reasons. Yo?
Human.
Huh?
I said while I look this up, go find your other reasons for me.
For what? Other reasons for what?
Well, at first you say because there are 0 contradictions. Even if there are 0 contradictions, that wouldn't necessarily prove the divinity of the Quran, right? I could say that a child's book has no contradictions, but that wouldn't necessarily mean that the child's book was revelation from God, right? So you got
Yes, that's
you gotta
true.
have
Wait, hold
you
on.
gotta have more than that to necessarily prove the divinity of something like
Wait, hold
a
on.
holy
Yes,
book.
that's true. Wait, that's true. But hold on. I say that there's no contradictions in the Quran. One of the verses in the Quran says there is nothing that is completely wrong with this Quran. So, if and that verse is completely true. So that mean the whole Quran is true. Would that not?
Not necessarily, because you're conflating something to be true with zero contradiction, right?
Wait, okay, hold on. Wait, hold on. One verse in a book. Actually, I won't even say in Quran. One verse in a book says everything in this book is correct. Now,
Okay.
no one has exact evidence or it can't prove that every single verse in that whole book is correct. But that exact one verse that says everything in this book is correct, everyone can prove that exact verse. Does that mean the whole book is true, or
No,
is it not? 'Cause
that
we can
wouldn't that
exactly
wouldn't that
prove
wouldn't
that
necessarily
is correct.
follow. That's a non sequitur. Here, let me just say this, right? It's false to say that everything is true. That would be the contradiction right there. It says everything is true. If something is not true, then that verse would be a contradiction, right? It says,
Yeah, but
for
then we can
example,
exactly prove that that one isn't true,
well,
or that one isn't true.
well, if I can prove that one verse in the Quran is false, then it would follow that that verse is, also false because it
Yes,
is not
exactly.
true. Yeah. So
Exactly.
here's a scientific claim that is false. It says that male seed is made in
Wait,
the
what surah?
back ribs,
What
right?
verse?
If what?
What surah and verse?
Pardon?
What surah and verse?
Here, I'll pull it up. Uh,
Yeah, there isn't any other
hold
verse
on.
of the Quran.
I'm
No,
finding it
I
for you.
want to talk to people in chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, someone's okay, hold on. This guy said
Surah at Tariq 8667. He was
Surah what?
created from fluid ejected emerging from between the backbone and the ribs.
Surah what?
Surah at Tariq, Tariq. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Tariq?
Yeah, 8667. In the Quran, it says.
Hold on.
You there?
You there? Yeah, my sister was talking to me, I think.
All good. Yeah.
Why? Say wallah. Were you asking me or Amira? Yeah, sorry, what verse?
Yeah, so it says, here,
Wait,
I might be able to paste in chat for you. There you go. It says, he was created from a fluid ejected emerging from between the backbone and the ribs. So that is basically talking about male seed. Male seed is not formed there. So that is a scientific claim that is false. And your verse that you said, this whole book is true, is obviously false if that one verse is false, meaning there is a contradiction.
What was the verse
I sent the chat.
again? No problem.
Do you take something to be living?
Something that's born.
Okay. Why should I believe that is valuable?
Because a fetus is a parasite. A parasite
Parasite is a
something-
different species than the host. By definition, it couldn't be a parasite.
Please don't cut me off. Okay. A parasite
Alright.
is something that has to live off something else to stay alive. That's what a fetus is.
Parasite is also defined as something different than the host, right? Species, it's not the same species.
It might be different than the host.
Okay, I think what you're trying to say is it behaves like a parasite,
Yeah.
like a parasite, but that's
Okay, I can agree with that, but that wouldn't necessarily. That's a non sequitur. Say just because X acts like Y, therefore we can murder X. That's a non sequitur.
I didn't say that.
That is what you said. What?
No, I said it is a parasite.
Well, by definition, it's not.
Well, yeah, it's a fetus.
Yeah. So it's not a parasite. It just acts like one.
Not really.
And even if it was, even if this thing was like a total bacterial virus, right? We could say it's cancer, but just that's a descriptive claim that doesn't necessarily jump to the conclusion that we ought to murder it.
It's not murder though, because it's not alive.
Okay. How do you determine if something is alive or not?
If it's been born.
So, what? You said so there's difference between being alive and living. I asked you when being alive starts, right? You said when it's born, but you all say living is when it starts, right? So, by your definition, there is no difference between being alive and living.
No, but there is. Because I said
Then
so.
what is it? Oh my goodness. You're a
Stop,
foid.
wait.
You are like the biggest foid on the planet. You are fat.